they got fired. Not just laid off, they got fired. Two guys in their 40s with families to feed got laid off from an executive position that they had at one of the greatest handyman stores back in the day called Handy Dan. But instead of quitting, they went on to build a $300 billion business empire. Let's talk about it. In the late 1970s, Bernie Marcus and Arthur Blank were both executives at a small hardware chain called Handy Dan. They had big ideas. They had an idea to build a massive warehouse where anyone, not just contractors, could buy tools, supplies, and actually learn how to use them. But their boss hated the idea, thought it was too risky, too different. And in 1978, after a corporate shakeup, they were both out of a job. They were fired for their ideas. Most people would have taken that as a sign to tone it down, but they took it as a sign to build something legendary. And that's how Home Depot was born. After getting fired, Bernie and Arthur decided to get some dinner, and they basically said, screw it. Let's go build what we've been talking about, what we've always wanted to run, which is a big box home improvement store that nobody had heard of at the time. Because if you think about it, there was no Lowe's, there was no Home Depot doing what they were doing to this day. It was where you had little home improvement stores that contractors would go to, and they'd have to go to multiple to get all the supplies they need. But Bernie and Arthur decided that we want to have one that's all under one roof, that's basically in a giant warehouse where they can get everything they need. And they encouraged people to be DIYers. That was a big part of their early ideas. And so they pitched to a couple investors because they didn't have any money. And one of the early ones that they found was Ken Langone, and he took a chance on them. He was a New York investment banker, and he helped raise all the seed money that made the deal possible. In 1979, they opened the first two Home Depot stores in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, that doesn't mean that the early days weren't without their struggles. They were brutal. The shelves were half empty because they couldn't afford enough inventory. So they literally stacked paint cans sideways and spread out boxes just to make the store look full. But they trained their employees to teach customers how to do things themselves, fixing plumbing, installing lighting, laying tile. The hands-on education earned loyalty fast because people didn't just want to buy because they had all the things that they need. They went there to learn. And that's when they got their brand as the DIY store. And Bernie had a rule. He said, whatever you do, take care of the customer. And if a customer wasn't happy, employees were empowered to fix it on the spot. No manager approval needed. If there was an issue where they decided, oh, I want a refund, they'd refund it. They didn't have to ask a bunch of questions. They said the customer is always right. And they were one of the first stores to do that. Word quickly spread, and contractors started coming in from all over for the bulk pricing. DIY homeowners started coming in for the guidance. And slowly, the orange little warehouse became the place for anyone building something. Pretty quickly, it started to take off. By 1981, Home Depot went public. Through Ken Langone, they were able to get a bunch of investments. And within 8 years, it passed Lowe's as the largest home improvement retailer in America. And then the 90s were full throttle. Stores opened all across the country. And it became a symbol with all the aprons and all the customer service that they provided. The founders built a foundation, a culture based on hard work. And it continued to grow until they got to $300 billion, and now they employ over 400,000 people, which is not too bad for two people that got fired. There's a simple but powerful story in all of this. Getting fired isn't failure, it's feedback. Failure in general is not failure itself, it's just feedback. And sometimes life has to push you out of one chapter so you finally write the next one. Bernie and Arthur didn't reinvent tools. They reinvented the experience of buying them. Their success came from seeing what everyone else ignored and betting everyone and everything on a better way. So the next time you feel stuck, undervalued, or told your ideas are too big, remember these two guys from Atlanta who refused to stay small. So fun fact, I actually went to college with Arthur Blank's granddaughter, and she told me a story about how in the early days, they didn't have enough product to even put on the shelves. So they had empty boxes that they put on the shelves, and they were struggling to get customers in the store. And so her dad, who was Arthur Blank's son, had to go out and hand out dollar bills to people in the parking lot just to get them to come into the store. And it worked, clearly. But in the early days, it didn't seem like it would. And so that's just a lesson for all of us that it's not always going to be pretty. But if you just continue to stay resilient, it'll work out in the end. If you love stories like this, real entrepreneurs, real lessons, no fluff, hit subscribe and stick around, because every week I'm breaking down the strategies behind how ordinary people build extraordinary businesses. And if you want to learn how you can start buying your own small business and build your own freedom, go check out the link in the description for a free vending machine playbook and how I built a $1,000 passive income stream in 30 days. I hope to see you on the next video. Take care. Peace.